Oh, here. Okay.
Hey guys, it's Kilby Browne.
And Marizete Browne.
And we are the Property Hats New York City Team. Thanks for joining our podcast today. We're very, very excited. We have a good friend, a real estate attorney, Jason George, real estate attorney in New York City, who's joining us today. And Jason, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, guys. Always a pleasure to be invited by the Property Hats team.
Wonderful. So, Jason, why don't you tell us about your background a little bit so we can get to know you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm originally from Massachusetts. I moved down to New York in 2003 and immediately fell in love. And like many people who come to New York, and I've been here ever since. Been practicing attorney in New York since about 2007, 2008. And I've been doing real estate for about 8 of the last 10 years. So, and then once I started, I haven't looked back. It's been all real estate, full steam ahead.
Wonderful.
And
Great.
I just got the biggest present that COVID could ever give is a little baby girl.
Oh, congratulations! Wonderful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's not due to COVID, but she happened during it, so it's given me one more reason to be happy about staying home and staying safe. So
wonderful! Oh, what a beautiful! But life is beautiful, right?
That's it. More appreciation.
Yes, yes.
Great reason to be home, right? Great reason to stay home and put everything.
It makes it a lot easier, right? It makes it a lot easier to stay home.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of real estate, in terms of being a transaction real estate attorney, what do you see in the current marketplace of shelter in place and kind of current market conditions? What do you see happening?
Sure. So I represent buyers and sellers of condos, co-ops, and multi or single family properties in the city, as well as commercial real estate. I do both sides, both sellers and buyers in commercial real estate deals. So it's kind of funny. Normally you have an indication of how markets change a little bit before people see bubbles and people kind of react in advance. This just pounced upon us, right? So a lot of the market has been a shock to the market. Let's call it. Ice has been flowing through the real estate market in New York, and a lot of deals either have frozen in place, either not happened, or have slowly gone forward. So what I've seen is the deals that are happening are ones that either were already in contract or ones where the parties already have a detailed and intimate knowledge of the property. So a lot of deals in condos and co-ops where the buyer, let's say, already lives in the building or is already aware of the property or already has intimate knowledge of it. It's not like, and I'm sure that you both know about this better than most, showings aren't happening, right? You only have virtual showings and it's limited. There's limited access to buildings. So a lot of the deals that are happening that I'm seeing personally are deals where the parties have an intimate knowledge of the building and the property. Either they already live in the building or they know somebody in the building or already have access to it. So those deals are happening. I can't say that they're happening in terms of the market price. There's certainly discounts that are being priced in now due to the market. Every deal is different, but as far as what I'm seeing, a lot of times there are discounts that are happening.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard both. I've heard people backing out of deals. I've heard discounts happening. I've heard of deals that have gone into contract prior to this have actually closed at the same price. So I guess each situation is different.
Absolutely. Really, I mean, look, when you have buyers of condos and co-ops, usually they're buying to live in these places, right? So a lot of times the contract will remain as is, right, and get enforced, and the buyer actually wants to close because either they need to or they really want to move into this place. I do have investor clients where that's not the case, right? Where the contract is becoming less and less enticing for them to close on, and there's a potential for dispute over the contract deposit and the purchase price and whatnot. These things are going to be sorted out by the courts in the coming months and in year or more, I think. And it's interesting to see how they play out. Each party kind of is different, right? They're acting and reacting to the market based on what they see. I don't have any hard and fast rules for this. I think that the courts will end up enforcing a lot of contracts, but there's going to be certain times where the reality of COVID, depending on what happens to either one of the parties, right? If someone's actually physically affected by COVID, that could have an effect, right? We really, the whole industry is wondering what's going to happen in terms of how courts are going to start to interpret contracts given this.
Great. So are you seeing like getting a hard time to do these everything virtual in the co-op situation?
So I've seen that, in the beginning there was this complete freeze and kind of it was like a reaction to the trauma of, hold on a second, we're shutting everything down. Let's see what we have to do. And as you know, especially in co-ops, but also in condos, you rely on the management company and we rely on third parties to give us information in terms of the due diligence, which is why, back to my previous point, people that already have knowledge in the building or already live in the building find it easier to conduct these deals. But I have found that over time, management companies, even though they're working from home or remotely, have found ways to share information and be reactive to buyers' requests and due diligence. They may be delayed, and you have to anticipate that. But I have found that there's goodwill and that people are trying to get these things done. When it comes to that's on the front end of getting all the information, negotiating the contract, it can be a little bit more challenging on the closing side. Once you get through, yes, co-op boards and condo boards are interviewing people mostly virtually, remotely. Then the next question is, okay, now we have to close, right? New York, traditionally, these are physical closings. Everybody shows up in the same room, as you both know, and I'm sure many of our listeners know. But now that's not even possible, right? It's not the rules and the government regulations aren't allowing us to do that. So I've been involved in every deal is different. Every closing is different. Sometimes there's a one go-between that goes between offices and hands and distributes documents. Other times, I've literally had a title company actually show up on the street and hand me an envelope, and I handed him an envelope, and then drive off to the next guy, and we just kind of play phone tag and wait for everybody to say, yeah, we received the documents, it's clear to close, and everybody's clear to deposit their checks. Every deal is different, every situation is different, right? It really depends, as you know, on the co-op when we're doing co-op deals, and then on the condo, on the various parties. So it really depends on your lawyers and on your agents to make sure that they're willing to cooperate and get everything done. It's been a challenge.
I think that's the biggest key. Is we always tell people, you have to cooperate, you have to get along, you have to try to. Both sides are being pulled by different areas. We have to all try to get along, work together, be patient with each other, understand that the other side might have, things in their lives going on, and try to make it all come together.
Right, which is to kind of go, speaking of that, and that the whole new world that we live in, some new contracts that are happening are now reflecting that, right, in the contract. So we had mentioned prior to our call the discussion about COVID and how COVID riders and COVID language has creeped into contracts. And I think it makes sense in both parties, and buyers and sellers, I've found, are willing to put this in because everybody realizes especially in New York City, the seriousness of it and the necessity of having language, right? So the language would say, if due to COVID, X party is affected and cannot close for whatever reason, or cannot take action based on government regulation or some other regulation that's enforced due to this pandemic, that they're given a certain amount of time to react and to delay closing or to delay whatever the action is. So that's being I find goodwill amongst parties, both buyers and sellers. And I've been on both sides, and I've drafted as a buyer's attorney, and I've accepted as seller's attorney with minor modification this COVID language, because it really is, it's actually valuable for all parties, right? To have it, to rely on it, and it relieves a little bit of that stress, which is, what's going to happen? Oh my God, how are we going to do this? You know, when you have COVID language, people say, okay, or this is what the language says: you have 2 more weeks, or one. You know, I've had clients that have been subject to the virus, have actually come down with the virus. And that's a huge issue, right? I mean, that's well beyond buying or selling property. It's a personal health scare and health issue. So that's really important, and that's really been something that's coming up a lot in the market.
And Jason, what about the condos and co-ops? What they are doing about move in, move out procedures?
That's a great question. Yeah. So along with all of your lawyers and agents getting together in a friendly fashion and in a communal fashion to make sure this remote closing happens, every party relies on either their co-op or condo, their particular building, to tell them what the move in and move out procedures are, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And there's no rule across the board. Every building is different. I've found some buildings have said, we're not allowing any move in at this point. Some take the very extreme approach. Others are saying you can move in, but you can only do it in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of movers, and they have to take all the necessary social distancing guidelines seriously and wear masks and gloves and all that. So each one takes it, makes its own rules, I should say, which is unfortunate, but is also understandable because each building has its different dynamics. So they do get done. Currently I have one deal that the board is just frozen. They just haven't made a decision. They don't know. I don't know if this is the first deal they've done in this market, and they just haven't made any decision as to how to go forward. That's unfortunate because the parties suffer due to that.
Of course.
And we encourage the boards to think this through.
Exactly. That's something we discussed as real estate agents. Do you know anyone on the board? Do you know another real estate agent who knows someone on the board? Somehow just to kind of get the conversation going and find out, because we could think that they're thinking one thing. It just could be, they don't want to set up a Zoom call or something. It could be something very basic. We don't really know what the problem is. So it's all about cooperation, negotiation, right?
And that's where the Property Hats team and your colleagues come in hand. Yeah, because
people like
really
you.
It's a matter of coordinating with the board and being amenable to doing what is necessary to get it done. I mean, we've had some deals happen only because the buyers have been willing to move in partially, right? And move in just the necessities, right? And you need to have that communication with your agent and the board or whoever the management company is to say, what do we need to do to make you comfortable, really? Because I think that really goodwill and good communication is super important. It's always important, but it's especially important in this market. And I think that your agents and lawyers will be defined by how good they are at communicating in this market, getting deals done.
So here we go with the $64,000 question. What do you see going forward in the next few months, short term, mid-term, long term, the New York City real estate market from your point of view?
That's right.
Yeah, that's more than a $64,000 question, isn't it?
$64 million, but that's
really. No, look, I think as long as we are in this shelter-in-place scenario in the city, the market will continue to be in this very I don't want to say stagnant, but very slow-moving status. One thing to mention is that refinances, I understand, are happening at a very rapid pace, of course, because they don't require move in, move out. They don't require a lot of third-party activity, and banks are still liquid and still willing to do these. So people that are looking to refinancing, don't look at the COVID situation in the real estate market as affecting that. I encourage you to reach out to your bank and do that. But in terms of what we're seeing in our market now, I think it's going to continue to be slow while we're in the shelter in place. And then I think there'll be a slow recovery in the midterm of deals that were about to happen and need to happen, and those will get done. And then I see maybe a little bit of a dip for the next 6 to 12 months after that, where the market readjusts and pricing gets readjusted, and the whole world, and particularly New York, kind of adjusts to the new financial reality we have, right, where we're at. But it's New York. There's always going to be deals. There's always going to be opportunity. It's just a matter of where they get priced in, how they get done. We're a city of 8-9 million people. people are going to be moving and buying and selling no matter what. So I'm cautiously optimistic on that front.
Yeah. No, it's amazing with all these crises, everything shut down. Everything is possible in New York City, right? And when you have Jason as a lawyer, is very patient, very kind. You communicate like amazing. Your communication is amazing. So
Thank
with
you. Thank you.
the buyer, the seller, you're welcome. With the agents, and it's a pleasant really to work with you, right? It's very
Jason, you're fantastic. And I know you got a meeting, so we're going to let you run. But really quick, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? We'll put your details in the body of the
video. Sure. My email is jgeorge@washingtongeorgepllc.com. I'm sure you'll flash that down below. And then my office line, my direct dial is 917-818-3362. And it's a pleasure. It'll be a pleasure to speak with any of your clients or any of the other people or colleagues in the market. Thank you very much for having me. And
hats off to you. Thanks so much for participating.
Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Take care, guys. Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.